23rd of June, the people of Britain voted to leave the European Union.
The Article 50 process is now underway, and in accordance with the wishes of the British people, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. This is an historic moment from which there can be no turning back. I have just chaired a meeting of the Cabinet where we agreed that the government should call a general election to be held on the 8th of June.
On Wednesday 29th of March 2017, Theresa May's postman in Brussels hand-delivered a 6-page letter to Donald Tusk, the President of the European Council, triggering Article 50 of the Lisbon Treaty, starting the formal process for the UK exiting the European Union within 2 years' time, with the negotiations expected to begin during May following the conclusion of the French presidential elections. And then on the 18th of April, Theresa May surprised everyone by calling a Brexit snap UK general election to be held on the 8th of June 2017. And this really was a surprise to all, because previously she had repeatedly stated that she would not be calling an early general election. Instead, in a statement issued, made clear that a slender majority in the House of Commons was not large enough to secure a strong Brexit outcome for the United Kingdom. Clearly, Theresa May has calculated that this is the most opportune moment to take advantage of a crippled Labour Party that is still immersed within its own civil war, having lost 40 MPs to the SNP in Scotland. Then there are UKIP, who are literally imploding without purpose following the triggering of Article 50, all of which is manifesting in a landslide generating poll lead of over 20% over Labour. So do subscribe to this YouTube channel for forthcoming videos in this in-depth series in the run-up to the June 8th UK general election. It appears YouGov has decided to corner the UK election shock polls market by virtue of starting to publicise shock polls on a near daily basis. They are successfully sending the mainstream media into a feeding frenzy as the seats forecast create an illusion of a tightening election race, when in probable reality no such tight race ever existed. So the mainstream media has been busy these past few days reporting on YouGov's headline grabbing shock poll of the Tories losing 20 seats on their current standing by falling to 310, whilst Labour adding about 30, rising to 257 seats, resulting in a hung parliament, implying a nightmare election scenario of a weak Labour government controlled by the SNP that, like vampires, would seek to bleed the United Kingdom dry of its financial blood, which has already had an immediate impact on the markets by sending sterling temporarily lower, with a real world impact as holiday makers now get less foreign currency for their sterling. It was only a few weeks ago that the polling industry, including YouGov, were forecasting that the Conservatives would win a landslide victory, with many such as Sky News forecasting the Tories winning on over 400 seats. So on the basis of the trend trajectory of YouGov's latest shock poll to garner maximum media and public interest, of the Tories falling from 411 to 310 seats in just 2 weeks, then it is possible that in the countdown to polling day that the likes of YouGov could even put Labour ahead of the Tories in the polls, and thus imply an outright Labour election win. And such a shock poll would immediately have the mainstream media jumping up and down like demented rabbits, frothing at the mouth, hardly able to get their words out on the likes of Sky News, whilst Labour politicians would look on in bewilderment, hoping that it's their time to get lucky, whilst the Tories sharpened their knives for Theresa May as Gove and Boris throw in their hats for their leadership once more. I well understand Labour voters and supporters will be salivating at such a prospect, but of course it's nonsense, as I illustrated in my recent video analysis of how and why the pollsters keep getting election after election very badly wrong. It's because opinion polls are a propaganda tool for the mainstream media to peddle an agenda in their self-interest of selling garbage to the masses. Furthermore, a spokesperson for YouGov stated that the same model had correctly predicted that Leave would win the EU referendum, which illustrates the point I've been making since 2015, that the pollsters are always right, even when they are wrong. Publish enough polls and have a wide enough margin of error, then virtually every possible outcome is covered so the pollsters can claim victory no matter who wins. Here's what YouGov actually stated on Brexit night, when after the polls closed, YouGov called it for Remain on 52% against Leave on 48%.
YouGov have done what they did at the time of the Scottish independence referendum, and indeed also last year's general election, which is to get hold of people whom they've been interviewing during the campaign and ask them, what have you done? And on the basis of that, YouGov are saying that Remain have got 52% of the vote and Leave have got 48% of the vote. So this is the first bit of public intelligence we've got about the outcome of this.
And now YouGov, a year on, are saying that they had a model all along that correctly predicted Leave would win, but kept quiet about it at the time, instead publicly stating that Remain had won. Whilst my analysis of last Friday warned that what we are seeing are fake polls, for I've seen this several times before where a polling industry desperate to sell polls coupled with a mainstream media desperate to sell publications always demand a close election so as to garner the greatest amount of public interest, when in fact the reality is that the polls are fake. And the only solution, as per my last Friday's analysis, is that if you're going to rely on the polls and use the average of polls and forget polling conducted in the final 2 weeks, especially if they start to broadcast ridiculous tightenings in the race as we are now witnessing, and which at this rate could even put Labour into the lead by voting date, despite the fact the reality is the exact opposite. Ensure you're subscribed to this YouTube channel for the next analysis in this series as I count down to my UK General Election 2017 final forecast conclusion.